my podcast, Family Law Uncensored. I'm your host, Maya Shulman, family law and family formation practitioner, also joined by my producer, Tommy.
Hey, oh, hi everybody.
Hi, Tommy. What are we talking about today?
Well, today I want to talk about something I know that is very close to your heart. And you talk about your pets and your dogs a lot. What happens in the event that things don't work out and you get divorced? What happens to the pets?
Well, many things are close to my heart, and pets are definitely one of them. We have two, and they're amazing. They're the best. So, what happens in divorce is we unfortunately have to deal with pets often. Not always a pretty situation because many people consider pets their family, as they should. And I'll be the first one to tell you that pets are family. So, because they're family, we have to deal with issues like custody of your pets. And those issues can get pretty expensive. I will tell you that people spend a lot of money litigating custody of their pets. Should they do so? Probably, because pets are important and people will stop at very few things when it comes to their pets.
So, going off of what you just said, so basically in a divorce case, you're telling me that a pet is considered a family member, not property.
Well, yes and no, because like anything else in practice of law, there's every question has 10 sub answers, and every sub answer has Roman numerals to it. So there's never a black and white answer. Um, Pets are also included in the domestic violence protective orders. You can ask for a restraining order against your significant other, including your pets, as protected household persons, quotation marks, but they will be included. So think of that. This is fairly new. This law has been on the books for a few years, and we use it, and we use it successfully, and the judges are aware of the fact that pets need protection as well.
Can pets be included in the divorce settlement, like assets, like
Yes,
property?
Tommy. Yes, Tommy. They better be. They better be. They need to be included. There will be visitation orders with your pets. There will be orders talking about who is responsible for the vet bills, who is responsible for the grooming bills. All of that is subject to negotiations, pretty much like you do with your human children.
Well, for argument's sake, let's say that one, in a divorce, one of the people or someone wants the pet and the other one doesn't. Is it as simple as just that person gets the pet? How does a judge determine that?
Oh, it's not simple at all, Tommy. It can be, and usually does get complicated. And the burden of proof is going to be, well, which of the two spouses provided care for the pets during marriage? Which of them took the pet to the vet? Which of them actually took time to walk the pet? Which of them gave the pet medications or supplements? So that is something that's going to be presented to the judge at the time of trial if the two parties cannot settle like the adults that they should be.
I didn't even think of some of the things you just mentioned prior to. Are there any other factors that I'm not thinking of or that maybe our listeners aren't thinking of that will be taken into consideration when determining the custody of a pet?
Well, let me ask you, Tommy, do you have pets?
Yes.
Okay, so think of it. If your pet has to go somewhere else and not be with you at home, and you have a son, I believe, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure your son and your pet are very attached.
Very much so.
So your son would be very sad if your pet wasn't around, wouldn't he?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the answer to your question. And so nobody wants to lose their pet, especially when you have children who are attached to your pets. And that's how it gets complicated and that's how it gets costly. So some of the evidence that is going to be presented in court at trial is the attachment between your children and your pets. So if you have primary custody of your two-legged children, you are more likely to get custody of your four-legged children so that they can be together.
So that's what they mean when they say that the other person got nothing or then they got everything. So they get.
Well, yes and no, because pets are also expensive. And I will tell you, nobody's taking my pets. That is not happening.
Now, you said something about attachment. How does the court evaluate each spouse's attachment, especially if one spouse was primarily responsible for the pet's care, took them to the doctors, did all the things that you said. How do they actually determine that?
Well, there will be testimony of the spouses, and they will testify, and they will provide maybe evidence of videos and pictures, and they will have their friends testify as to who walks the dog, who takes them to the doctor, and who is more attached that way. So, like anything else, the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is going to consist of what evidence you are able to present.
Are there any legal precedents or rulings that have helped establish how pets are treated in divorce cases, especially here in California?
There have been a number of cases where pets have become the star of the show, no pun intended, but there have been a number of highly litigated cases. I know of one case, I can't give you the name because of privacy issues, but there had been a case where people have spent upwards of $200,000 litigating custody of their beloved dog. So it does happen, especially in California, and it's not that unusual.
Well, taking, the money into it, what about the other side of it? Can, the financial cost of caring for a pet, let's say that one spouse or one of the other has a better means to afford to take care of the pet, does that determine who the pet will go to?
It will not determine who the pet will go to, but it will determine who will pay for it.
Okay.
The custody of pets is not necessarily contingent on your income. The custody of the pet is going to be contingent on who the better pet owner is, who the better pet family member is. So money is secondary to the pet custody, but not indispensable.
Now, how does, pet custody actually work? Is there a formal agreement? Like, is there a visitation schedule? Is it the same thing like with the kid where the other spouse can come visit and play with the dog or the cat? Or
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. That's
Okay.
exactly that. It's going to be custody agreement or visitation agreement where you will be allowed to take your pet for a walk or overnight or take him or her on the trip. And all of that is going to be spelled out in the final divorce agreement.
Now, in the past, you said that mediation is always better than actually going to court. How can a couple avoid going to court over their pet and work out a mutual agreement for custody? Would mediation be something that would work for this as well?
Absolutely. Mediation is always a better way out. Anything can be and should be mediated if you have two adults involved in this. And just like custody of the two-legged children, the four-legged children deserve what's best for them as well. And I think mediation is really the best way out of it.
Piggybacking off that, how can couples address their pet needs without involving the court in the divorce process?
The couple should really think about what they know about their pet. Sometimes they don't know enough. Sometimes they maybe have not paid enough attention, but they can sit down and talk and decide what's best for the pet. Maybe talk to their vet, and the vet will make recommendations as to the schedule, the medications, if any, the training, if any, just the routine, everyday task that the pet needs.
As you've already made clear, you very much love your pets.
I do.
And there's plenty of other people out there that are just like you. Without being negative, if you're in a marriage and you really love your pet, is there anything that you should do to document the care of the pet during the marriage in the event that, one day you get divorced?
Well, you should always document the care that your pet needs, regardless. It doesn't have to be a divorce that comes knocking on the door. If you go traveling and you leave your pet with a house or dog sitter, that person needs to know what your pet requires. So you always should document the needs of your pet, the medications of your pet. You should have the emergency numbers written on the fridge. It's your everyday common sense kind of approach. Just like you do with your children, you do the same with your pets. So that's not unusual to keep track of what your pet really needs.
But I'm saying if you're the one that's walking them and you're the one that's feeding them and you're the one that's taking them to the vet, and you're the one that's doing all these things, as opposed to just going to court and saying, I do all these things with no proof, is it better to have some sort of proof along the way just in case, things don't work out? Because I think a lot of people are like you. If they get to the point of the divorce, the animals are coming with them. You know, they care
Yeah.
more about the animals in some instances than the marriage.
Well, absolutely. Well, I'm not getting divorced and I'm not sharing my pets. Our pets are with us, both of them, and my husband and I take turns walking them. And I will tell you that my husband is the one who takes them to the vet because he is more nervous, I would say, on that issue. I'm happy to stay back on this one, but that's okay because, we're together. In the marriage, I'm not sure it is practical to keep notes every day and document who walks at what times and who feeds them at what time. I don't think it's reasonable to do it and to expect to do it. But if it comes to a point where you can't amicably solve the custody issue of your pets, then there will be evidence. Your neighbor will testify. Don't forget, neighbors know everything. Neighbors see everything. We have a neighbor who lives across the street from us. I will tell you, she knows. She sees and she watches, and I'm sure she has knowledge of what we do, sometimes better than we do ourselves. So people always know. Having said that, if you're able to document your routine, I guess more power to you. But I don't expect that in the everyday course of events, people are actually able to do so.
What about if one of the pets is a quote unquote service animal and it services one of the, but it's both people's animal, but it services one of the spouses? Does that factor into the divorce at all?
It does, absolutely, Tommy, it does. If it's a service animal that is trained to help one of the spouses, that service animal will go with that spouse. That's not that big of a question. It really, again, a common sense question, common sense answer. Service animal is trained to help one specific person. So that service animal is going to go with that person.
Got it. Now, in closing, what advice would you give to couples going through divorce who want to ensure that that the pet's best interests are considered?
The best thing I am able to suggest to you, I assume that if you have pets, I assume you love them and you care for them and they mean something to you. We have lost a pet, my husband and and I will tell you, it was very difficult. It was very, very difficult. I saw my husband cry, and he's a big guy. He's an athletic, big guy, and I saw him cry when we lost our pet, and we had to make a decision to let her go, and we lost her to cancer. So when people go through this, they appreciate having animals, and they appreciate the time they've had the animals for. And so when they have a dispute over that animal, they have to remember what that animal means to them. And I would assume they want what's best for the animal. So be an adult, do what's best for your pet, and treat him or her as your family. And that concludes my episode on pet custody. Love your pets, treat them as your family, take care of them, and remember, they are with you for a short time. And all they have is you. So treat them like all they have is you. This is the end of my episode on pet custody. Please look me up on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, anything else you can find in the social media universe. I'm your host, Maya Shulman, family law and family law practitioner, here with my producer, Tommy.